The council chamber felt like a tomb made of light. Walls of pure energy shimmered around the circular room, while representatives from 40 different species sat in their designated sections. Some breathed methane through filters. Others floated in gravity bubbles. A few existed as pure thought patterns projected onto crystalline seats. David Reed sat in the human section and tried not to look bored. The Draxian ambassador had been talking for 20 minutes about their new combat drones. Each sentence felt longer than the last. Our military technology represents the peak of galactic achievement, the Draxian said. His name was Vril, and he had 4 arms that he waved dramatically. 3 systems have already accepted our protection. We offer the Council a demonstration of superior firepower. Several species murmured approval. The Tauridi clicked their approval through translator devices. The Kelvin representatives pulsed with agreeable colors. High Chancellor Tormund raised one ancient hand. The room fell silent. Tormund species had been traveling between stars when most others were still learning to make fire. His word carried weight. The demonstration is approved, Tormund said. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. However, fairness demands we allow another species to participate, to show comparative capabilities. Vril's face twisted into what might have been a smile. His 4 eyes fixed on the human section. Perhaps our newest members would honor us? Humanity has been part of this council for only 2 cycles. We are curious about Earth military doctrine. David felt every alien I turned toward him. Some looked curious. Most looked amused. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council with outdated fusion drives and kinetic weapons. Their best warship could barely scratch a Draxian shield. We accept, David said quietly. The room erupted in surprised noises. Clicks, buzzes, chromatic shifts, and telepathic bursts of shock filled the air. Davril's smile widened. Excellent. We propose a simple test. Each side will assault a fortified position on neutral ground. The species who breaches the defenses fastest wins. The loser surrenders 3 colony worlds for protective custody. That seems extreme, said a Kelvin representative. Humanity may decline if they fear the terms, Vril said smoothly. David stood up. He was shorter than most species in the room, but he met Vril's 4 eyes without blinking. We accept your terms, but we choose the planet for the demonstration. Agreed. Which world do you select? Verdun 4. It has an atmosphere similar to Earth. We will need 3 weeks to prepare. Vril laughed. It sounded like metal scraping metal. Take a month if you need it. The result will be the same. The council adjourned. As species filed out through their various portals and passages, David noticed Tormund watching him with something like interest. The ancient being approached slowly. You seem confident for someone who just gambled 3 worlds, Tormund said. We're good at gambling, David replied. Earth taught us to play with bad hands. The Draxians have never lost a military demonstration. Their drones are remarkably efficient. So I've heard. David smiled. But efficiency isn't everything. Tormund's expression was unreadable. I look forward to seeing what humanity brings to Verdun 4. 3 weeks later, David stood on Verdun 4's rocky surface and watched the Draxian fortress take shape. Automated construction drones worked around the clock. Energy shields flickered to life. Weapon emplacements rose from the ground like metal flowers blooming. Vril walked the perimeter with obvious pride. Impressive, yes? The shields can withstand sustained plasma bombardment. The sensors detect anything larger than a small rodent. The automated defense grid has 3 backup power systems. Very thorough, David agreed. Where are your forces? Vril looked around at the empty plain. I see only your transport ships. They're preparing. I see no weapons. No vehicles. No power armor. Vril's confidence was absolute. This will be over quickly. The viewing platforms filled with alien observers. News drones from a dozen networks hovered overhead. This had become the most anticipated military demonstration in recent galactic history. Most species had placed bets on how fast humanity would surrender. High Chancellor Tormund arrived in a shielded platform. He gestured for the demonstration to begin. Humanity may commence their assault, he announced. David touched his communication device. Dr. Hayes released the team. The human transport ships opened their cargo doors. For a moment, nothing happened. Then small shapes began moving down the ramps. They were low to the ground and covered in thick gray fur. "What are those?" Vril asked. "Honey badgers," David said calmly. 50 of them. Confused murmurs spread through the viewing platforms. Alien analysts zoomed their recording devices in for closer looks. The creatures appear to be small mammals. Each one weighed maybe 15 kilograms. They had short legs and long claws. "This is a joke," Vril said. "You brought animals?" "Earth's most effective combat unit," David replied. The honey badgers spread out across the plain. They moved with purpose, their noses close to the ground. Some aliens started laughing. The betting odds shifted dramatically in the Draxians' favor. Then the first honey badger reached the outer perimeter. A deterrent field activated and sent a shock through the creature. The honey badger shook itself and kept walking. The field increased in intensity. The animal ignored it completely and started digging. Impossible, vril muteurde. That field produces pain equivalent to being burned alive. Honey badgers don't really care about pain, David said. Earth made sure of that. More badgers reached the perimeter. Automated weapons swiveled and fired stunning bolts. The creatures absorbed hits that would paralyze most species. They just got angrier. One badger, named Bruno, took 3 direct hits and responded by attacking the weapon emplacement itself. The laughter from the viewing platform stopped. Aliens leaned forward in fascination and growing horror. Within minutes, the honey badgers had created dozens of tunnels under the shield perimeter. The Draxian sensors, designed to detect large military units, kept losing track of the small, fast targets. Alert systems screamed warnings but couldn't pinpoint locations. David watched one badger chew through a power cable that was supposed to be indestructible. Another squeezed through a gap in the armor plating that the designers had considered too small to matter. "This cannot be happening," Vril said. His 4 hands clenched into fists. "Evolution is the oldest arms race," David said quietly. "Earth won it a long time ago." The honey badgers disappeared into the fortress structure. Inside the base, alarms began to sound. 3 weeks earlier, the Kalahari Research Facility sat baking under the African sun. Dr. Patricia Hayes stood in front of a reinforced glass wall and watched Bruno dig through solid concrete like it was sand. The honey badger had been at it for 6 minutes without slowing down. "He's reached the metal layer," said Sergeant Roychun. He checked the monitoring equipment with practiced ease. "That's titanium alloy. Should stop him." Patricia smiled. "Want to bet?" The sound of claws on metal echoed through the observation room. Bruno attacked the titanium with the same determination he showed everything else. Sparks flew. The metal began to show deep scratches. "That's impossible," Roy said. "His claws should break." Should is a funny word when it comes to honey badgers. Patricia made notes on her tablet. Bruno was born in the wild. His mother fought off 3 leopards to protect her den. Evolution made these animals into living weapons. General Amanda Brooks entered the observation room. She wore simple fatigues despite her rank. Her eyes fixed on Bruno with professional interest. "That's the one?" she asked. "Our best," Patricia confirmed. "Bruno failed the temperament test because he's too aggressive, which makes him perfect for what you need." Amanda watched the honey badger tear through the titanium barrier. The Galactic Council thinks we're primitives. They expect tanks and plasma rifles. "They've never met anything like Earth predators," Patricia said. "We evolved on a death world. Every creature here had to become a survivor." Roy opened another section of the facility. Inside, 49 more honey badgers were going through various training exercises. Some navigated zero-gravity chambers. Others solved complex puzzles to reach food rewards. A few were learning to operate in sealed environment suits designed specifically for their bodies. "We've enhanced their natural abilities," Patricia explained as they walked through the facility. "Better oxygen processing for thin atmospheres. Improved healing factors. Reinforced skeletal structure. But we didn't change what makes them special." "Which is?" Amanda asked. "They don't know how to quit." A honey badger's brain doesn't have the same fear response as other animals. They assess threats differently. Where most creatures run from danger, honey badgers run toward it. One of the smaller females approached the glass. Her name was Duchess, and she had scars across her face from fighting a cobra in the wild. The snake had bitten her 17 times. She killed it and ate it. What about intelligence? Amanda asked. Roy pulled up a video on the main screen. It showed a honey badger named Goliath working through a series of locked boxes. He solved each puzzle faster than the last, learning and adapting. The final box required manipulating 3 separate mechanisms in sequence. Goliath figured it out in under 2 minutes. They're smarter than people think, Roy said. Not human smart, but problem-solving smart. They understand cause and effect. They use tools. They work together when it benefits them. Patricia led them to the combat training area. Here the honey badgers faced simulated threats. Robotic attackers with various weapons. Energy barriers. Sound-based deterrents. The animals learned to adapt to each challenge. We've been training them against technology, Patricia explained, teaching them to find weak points in mechanical systems. They're natural climbers and diggers. They can squeeze through gaps that seem impossible, and their pain tolerance is legendary. A training sequence played on screens. Honey badgers encountered electric barriers that would stop most creatures. They pushed through with single-minded determination. Sonic weapons that caused disorientation barely slowed them down. Tear gas that would blind other animals just made them angry. Their skin is incredibly thick and loose, Patricia said. A predator bites them and just gets a mouthful of hide. The honey badger can twist around inside its own skin and attack back. Porcupine quills don't penetrate. Snake fangs barely reach the muscle. We measured one taking a blow that would crack a human ribcage. He just shook it off. Amanda watched the training footage with growing satisfaction. The Draxians will bring their best technology. Shields, sensors, automated defenses. Technology has predictable patterns, Roy said. Honey badgers don't. An AI can calculate the optimal response to a military unit. But how do you calculate optimal response to an animal that doesn't care if it gets hurt? They moved to the medical bay, where Dr. Sarah Kim was conducting final health checks. Each honey badger received a full examination. Teeth, claws, organs, everything needed to be perfect. We've outfitted them with minimal equipment, Sarah explained. Small tracking chips so we can monitor vitals. Communication devices that let us give basic directional commands. But mostly we let them do what they do naturally, which is, Amanda asked, destroy anything in their path. Patricia pulled up a historical file. It showed honey badgers in the wild attacking everything from lions to humans to vehicles. One video showed a badger chewing through a car tire to reach food inside. Another showed 3 of them driving a fully grown leopard out of its territory. Nature designed the perfect assault unit, Patricia said. We just pointed them in the right direction. The facility's main training coordinator brought Bruno and the others to the staging area. The honey badgers moved with confidence. They had been training for this their entire lives, even if they didn't know it. Roy knelt down and Bruno approached him. The massive male weighed 20 kilograms of pure muscle and attitude. He rubbed against Roy's hand like an aggressive cat. You ready, buddy? Roy asked quietly. Bruno made a chittering sound that could have been agreement or a threat. With honey badgers, it was hard to tell the difference. Amanda made her decision. Load them into the transport ships. We leave for Verdun 4 in 36 hours. General, Patricia said carefully, the council will think this is insane. Good. Let them underestimate us. Amanda smiled coldly. The Draxians want a demonstration of capability. We'll show them what 3 billion years of evolution looks like. The honey badgers were loaded into specially designed transport containers. Each animal had its own space with climate control and food. They would arrive at Verdun 4 in peak condition. Roy watched the loading process and felt a strange mix of pride and concern. These animals had become more than research subjects. They were partners. Fighters. Earth's secret weapon. Bruno was the last aboard. He paused at the ramp and looked back at the facility. Then he walked into his container with the confidence of a creature that had never lost a fight. The transport ships lifted off into the African sky, carrying Earth's most fearless warriors toward their greatest battle. The Draxian fortress sprawled across 2 square kilometers of Verdun 4 surface. Vril stood at the central command post and admired his work. Every detail had been calculated for maximum defensive capability. The shields alone could withstand bombardment from a full battle fleet. All systems are active, reported his second officer. Sensors operating at maximum range. Defense grid armed and ready. The perimeter is completely secure. Vril nodded with satisfaction. This demonstration would cement Draxian superiority once and for all. The humans had no chance. Their primitive weapons couldn't scratch his shields. Their outdated targeting systems couldn't penetrate his sensor jamming. On the viewing platforms above, representatives from 30 species settled in to watch. Betting pools had reached ridiculous levels. Most odds favored a Draxian victory in under 10 minutes. A few optimistic humans had placed bets on their own species, but even they seemed doubtful. High Chancellor Tormund sat in the central observation box. His ancient eyes missed nothing. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had witnessed technological revolutions and military innovations. Something about the human ambassador's confidence intrigued him. David stood on the human observation platform with General Brooks and Dr. Hayes. Roy was down on the surface with the transport ships, making final preparations. The Draxians brought their A-game, Amanda observed. That fortress is impressive. It's also overbuilt, Patricia said. Too many systems, too many connections, too many ways for something small to get inside. David raised his communicator. Mr. Chun, are our forces ready? Roy's voice came back clear. Bruno and the others are eager to go. I've never seen them this focused. Then let's begin. David looked up at Tormund and nodded. The ancient chancellor's voice boomed across the demonstration ground. Let the trial commence. Humanity may deploy their forces. The transport ships opened. The viewing platforms fell silent as 50 honey badgers emerged and spread across the plain. Even through the high-resolution displays, they looked impossibly small compared to the fortress. A Kelvin representative made a sound like water gurgling. Those are biological creatures. Small ones. Is this a joke? Asked a Torati delegate. Vril's face appeared on the main display screen. He was laughing. Earth sends animals? This is their military solution? David ignored the mockery. Dr. Hayes, give him the signal. Patricia spoke into her communicator. All units, proceed to target. The honey badgers moved. They didn't march in formation or follow tactical patterns. They simply headed toward the fortress with single-minded purpose. Their powerful legs covered ground quickly despite their short stature. The Draxian perimeter defenses activated automatically. Deterrent fields sprang to life, designed to cause extreme pain to any living creature. The first honey badger to reach the field was a female named Scout. The energy washed over her body, and she paused for exactly 2 seconds. Then she kept walking. Impossible, Vril said. That field produces neural pain equivalent to severe burning. 5 more honey badgers reached the deterrent field. All of them pushed through without stopping. On the viewing platforms, the laughter died away. Alien observers leaned forward with sudden interest. Their nervous systems must be different, Patricia explained calmly. Honey badgers have evolved to fight venomous snakes and angry bees. Their pain tolerance is extraordinary. The automated defense weapons swiveled toward the approaching animals. Stunning rounds fired in precise patterns. Bruno took a hit directly to his chest. The energy bolt should have paralyzed him for hours. He stumbled, shook his head, and continued forward even faster. Now he looked angry. Increase power to maximum stun. Vril ordered. The weapons fired again. Multiple honey badgers absorb hits that would drop a full-grown soldier. Goliath, the largest male, took 4 shots and responded by charging the nearest weapon emplacement. He reached it in seconds and began tearing at the metal housing with his claws. Sparks flew. Alerts sounded in the Draxian command center. One weapon went offline. How is this possible? Vril's 4 hands worked frantically over his controls. Switch to lethal countermeasures. Sir, are you sure? The council approved non-lethal demonstration only. Do it. Energy weapons capable of punching through armor plating swiveled toward the honey badgers. The first shot hit Duchess square in her side. She rolled with the impact, her thick, loose skin distributing the force. When she stood up, there was a burn mark on her hide, but she was otherwise fine and furious. The viewing platforms erupted in shocked murmurs. Species that had been mocking moments ago now watched in stunned silence. Their skin is incredibly tough, Patricia said, loud enough for nearby observers to hear. Evolved to resist bites from predators much larger than themselves. Your energy weapons aren't that different from a big cat's claws. Meanwhile, the honey badgers had reached the fortress perimeter. They immediately began digging. Their powerful claws tore through soil and rock at incredible speed. The Draxian shields extended deep underground, but the honey badgers simply dug deeper. Bruno created a tunnel network in minutes. The fortress sensors went crazy trying to track them. Designed to detect large military units, the system couldn't maintain locks on 50 small, fast-moving targets that kept disappearing underground. Sensor array is compromised, reported the Draxian technical officer. Targets moving too erratically. AI cannot predict movement patterns. They're animals, Vril shouted. They shouldn't have movement patterns. That's the point, David said quietly. Your AI was programmed to fight soldiers. These aren't soldiers. 3 honey badgers found a maintenance tunnel too small for Draxian engineers to have worried about. They squeezed through gaps that seemed physically impossible. Their flexible bodies and loose skin allowed them to compress and navigate spaces that would trap most creatures. Inside the fortress, automated defenses engaged. Laser grids, pressure sensors, containment fields. The honey badgers triggered every alarm and kept going. When barriers blocked their path, they found ways around or simply tore through. Bruno discovered a power conduit. The cable was wrapped in materials designed to resist cutting, burning, and chemical degradation. He bit through it in 45 seconds. Backup systems kicked in, but now the Draxians knew their fortress had been penetrated. All units to defensive positions, Vril ordered. Se al interior pasajes. But the honey badgers were already inside. They moved through the ventilation system, the utility crawl spaces, the gap between walls. Everywhere the engineers had left small spaces to save weight or allow for maintenance. The animals found their way through on the viewing platforms. What had started as entertainment had become something else entirely. Species that built their military doctrine on technology and firepower watched small Earth animals dismantle a fortress that should have been impregnable. The implications were staggering. Inside the fortress, chaos spread through every level. The Draxian combat drones activated their targeting protocols but found themselves facing an enemy their programming never anticipated. A honey badger named Ranger encountered the first drone in a corridor junction. The machine scanned him, categorized him as a non-threat based on size, and moved to bypass him. Ranger jumped and latched onto the drone's sensor array. His claws found purchase in gaps meant for cooling. The drone spun rapidly, trying to shake him off. Ranger held on and began chewing through the optical cables. Sparks erupted as the drone's vision went dark. It crashed into a wall and stopped moving. 3 more drones arrived. They had observed Ranger's attack and updated their threat assessment. Plasma cutters extended from their manipulator arms. One drone fired at point-blank range. The beam caught Ranger's shoulder, but his thick skin and dense muscle tissue absorbed most of the damage. He dropped from the first drone, rolled under the plasma cutter, and attacked the second machine's leg joint. Metal shrieked as powerful jaws crushed through the articulation point. The drone toppled sideways. Ranger was already moving to the third machine, climbing up its side faster than its weapons could track. Throughout the fortress, similar scenes played out. The honey badgers had no battle plan beyond destroy everything. They didn't coordinate through radio signals or follow tactical doctrine. They simply found targets and attacked with relentless aggression. Duchess led 4 others through the main power distribution center. Draxian engineers had protected the critical systems with redundant shielding. The honey badgers ignored the shields and went after the physical connections. Their claws evolved to dig through African hardpan and tear apart beehives, made short work of supposedly indestructible housing. Power grid failing, a Draxian technician reported. Sectors 3 through 7 are offline. Vril watches command displays fill with red warning indicators. Deploy the heavy combat units. Authorization code Vril 7 Alpha. In the fortress depths, massive war machines activated. These were the Draxian military's pride, each one worth more than a small starship. They stood 3 meters tall with armor plating that could withstand direct missile hits. Their weapons could level buildings. The first war machine encountered Goliath in a main corridor. The machine's AI analyzed the target, determined it was an animal, and prepared to step over it. Goliath looked up at the mechanical giant and saw only another obstacle. He charged. The war machine tried to target him, but Goliath was too close, moving too fast. He reached the machine's leg and began climbing. His claws found gaps in the armor plating meant for joint flexibility. The machine attempted to shake him off. Goliath dug in deeper and climbed higher. When he reached the torso section, he discovered the main power coupling. It was protected by reinforced casing rated to survive combat damage. Goliath bit into it anyway. His teeth, designed to crack bone and turtle shells, found the weak point where cables met connector. He pulled and twisted with strength far beyond what his size suggested possible. The power coupling tore free. The war machine's upper body went dark. It tried to operate on backup power, but Goliath had already moved to the next cable. Within 2 minutes, the 3-meter-tall killing machine was completely disabled, out on the viewing platforms. Alien observers watched in absolute silence. Military analysts from a dozen species frantically recorded everything. The tactical implications were staggering. Every defensive doctrine they knew was being rewritten in real time. This changes everything, High Chancellor Tormund said quietly. They're using biology as technology. A Kelvin military advisor spoke up. But they're just animals. They have no strategy, no coordination. That's exactly why they're winning, Tormund replied. The Draxians built defenses against intelligent opponents. These creatures don't think like soldiers. They think like predators. Inside the Fortress Command Center, Vril faced the reality of his situation. Half his systems were offline. His combat drones were destroyed or disabled. The heavy war machines had proven ineffective. The honey badgers were getting closer to the central command post. Seal the command center, he ordered. Activate the final defense protocol. Massive blast doors slammed shut. The command center became an isolated bunker with its own power supply and life support. The walls were meter-thick composite armor designed to survive orbital bombardment. We're secure, his technical officer reported. Nothing is getting through those doors. The words had barely left his mouth when they heard scratching sounds. Everyone in the command center turned toward the main door. The scratching grew louder. Impossible, Vril whispered. Those doors are impenetrable. Bruno had found the command center. He couldn't scratch through meter-thick armor, but he didn't need to. He followed the power cables leading into the bunker and found where they entered through a protected conduit. Protected from weapons, from explosives, from cutting tools. Not protected from an animal that could chew through almost anything given enough time. Bruno began working on the conduit junction. His teeth found the seam where protective plating met the wall. He pulled and twisted. The plating began to separate. Inside the command center, lights flickered. Backup systems kicked in, but Bruno had already exposed the main power feed. He bit down and pulled. Cable insulation tore away. His teeth contacted the energy-carrying core. The shock should have killed him. It would have killed most creatures on Earth. Bruno's entire body seized up from the electrical current. He held on for 3 seconds that must have felt like eternity. Then his jaw muscles, designed to hold prey that fought back, clamped down hard enough to sever the cable completely. The command center went dark. Emergency lighting activated, but every primary system was offline. The supposedly impenetrable bunker had been disabled by an animal weighing less than 20 kilograms. Vril stood in the dim red emergency lights and finally understood. The humans hadn't brought technology to fight technology. They brought something far older and far more effective. They'd brought evolution's answer to every obstacle. Relentless, fearless determination. Outside the command center, Roy monitored vital signs. Bruno's readings were erratic from the electrical shock, but stabilizing. Tough little warrior. Target secured, Roy reported. Bruno just took out their command center. On the human observation platform, David allowed himself a small smile. Around him, alien observers sat in stunned silence. The demonstration was effectively over. Earth's honey badgers had torn through the most advanced military installation the Draxians could build. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. High Chancellor Tormund descended from his observation platform to the surface of Verdun 4. His security detail tried to stop him, but he waved them off. He needed to see this up close. The ancient being had witnessed countless military demonstrations over thousands of years. None had ever been like this. The Draxian fortress sat silent. Emergency lights flickered through broken windows. Smoke rose from damaged sections. The supposedly impregnable installation had fallen in just under 6 hours. Not to bombs or plasma fire or kinetic strikes. To 50 small animals from a primitive world. Vril emerged from the command center. His 4 arms hung limp at his sides. His expression showed something Tormund had never seen on a Draxian face before. Humility. I formally surrender, Vril said quietly. The fortress is yours. David walked through the main entrance with Patricia and Roy. Honey badgers wandered through the corridors, some still investigating damaged equipment, others grooming themselves or eating from ration packs they discovered. Bruno sat in the command center's main chair, looking completely at home. We accept your surrender, David said, though we'd prefer cooperation to conquest. Tormund approached the group. His ancient eyes studied each honey badger with fascination. How is this possible? These creatures are not enhanced cybernetically. They carry no weapons, yet they defeated military technology that has conquered star systems. Patricia knelt down and Scout approached her. The scarred female allowed the doctor to check her injuries. Burns, cuts, bruises, but nothing serious. Her thick skin and robust physiology had protected her from damage that would cripple most species. Earth is a death world, Patricia explained. Our planet has multiple climate zones, hundreds of ecosystems, millions of predator-prey relationships. Everything evolved in constant competition. These animals represent 3 billion years of survival optimization. But they're so small, said a Torati observer who had followed Tormund down. Size is a human concept of power, Patricia replied. On Earth, some of the most dangerous creatures are tiny. Mosquitoes kill more humans than any large predator. Honey badgers evolved in Africa alongside lions, hyenas, and leopards. They survive by being too tough to kill and too mean to give up. Roy brought Bruno over. The big male had recovered from his electrical shock and seemed proud of himself. Tormund reached out slowly, and Bruno allowed the ancient being to touch his scarred head. Remarkable, Tormund said. I can feel the muscle density, the thickness of the hide. This creature is built like organic armor. With attitude to match, Roy said with affection. Bruno once fought a king cobra for 20 minutes. The snake bit him 8 times. He ate it for dinner. More observers descended to the surface. Military advisors from species across the galaxy examined the fortress damage with growing concern. Every defensive system had been circumvented or destroyed. The honey badgers had found weaknesses in designs that were supposed to be flawless. A senior Kelvin strategist examined the power conduits Bruno had destroyed. This is sophisticated sabotage. The animal identified critical infrastructure and disabled it with precision. That's giving him too much credit, Roy said. Bruno didn't identify anything. He just destroyed everything he could reach. It happened to be critical infrastructure because he's really good at destroying things. The strategist looked disturbed. You mean this wasn't planned? The targeting was random. Not random. Instinctive, Patricia corrected. Honey badgers evolved to raid beehives. They're naturally drawn to protected food sources. Your fortress with its bunkers and sealed compartments, looked like beehives to them. They went after anything that seemed defended. The implications settled over the gathered aliens like a heavy blanket. Military doctrine across the galaxy was based on logical targeting and strategic planning. The honey badgers had won through pure instinct and aggression. There was no strategy to counter because there was no strategy to predict. Vril approached David with obvious difficulty. Pride warred with reality on his face. Underestimated Earth. I underestimated you. That was foolish. It was natural, David replied. The galaxy measures strength in technology. We measure it differently. Earth taught us that survival takes many forms. The 3 colony worlds, Vril said. They're yours by right of victory. We don't want them. David gestured to the damaged fortress. But we do want cooperation. The galaxy faces threats that technology alone won't solve. Maybe it's time to consider other approaches. High Chancellor Tormund nodded slowly. The Council will need to review many policies after today. Human biological warfare capabilities exceed anything in our databases. This isn't warfare, Patricia said firmly. These are animals, living beings with their own dignity. We didn't create them as weapons. We just recognized what evolution had already created and asked for their help. Duchess approached Tormund and made a chittering sound. The ancient being studied her with something like respect. Your species will change the galaxy, Dr. Hayes. Not through conquest, but through perspective. You've shown us that nature itself can be more powerful than our greatest inventions. The demonstration officially ended as sunset colored Verdun 4's sky purple and orange. Medical teams checked each honey badger thoroughly. Some had injuries, but nothing that wouldn't heal. Their enhanced physiology was already repairing damage that would require surgery for most creatures. Roy loaded the animals back into their transport containers. Bruno was the last aboard, just like before. He paused and looked back at the fortress he'd conquered. Then he walked into his container with the confident swagger of a creature that had just proven himself unbeatable. The viewing platforms emptied as alien delegations returned to their ships. Conversations buzzed with military implications, strategic recalculations, and shocked reassessments of human capabilities. News networks broadcast footage across the galaxy. By morning, every species would know what had happened. David stood with General Brooks and watched the alien ships depart. Well, we made an impression. We terrified them, Amanda replied. Every military force in the galaxy just realized their defensive systems have a fundamental flaw. They're designed to stop armies, not nature. Think they'll try to copy our approach? Probably, but they don't have Earth. They don't have 3 billion years of evolutionary warfare producing creatures like honey badgers. We have a monopoly on the most effective soldiers in the galaxy. Patricia joined them with her tablet showing vital statistics. All animals are healthy and ready for transport home. Bruno is already asleep. Apparently destroying a fortress is exhausting work. How soon before we could deploy them again? Amanda asked. Never, if I have my way. Patricia's voice was firm. These are living beings, not tools. Today worked because they trusted us and we respected them. That relationship is sacred. We don't abuse it. David nodded. Agreed. But the galaxy needs to know we could deploy them again if necessary. The threat alone has value. High above, Tormund's ship prepared for departure. The ancient chancellor watched Verdun 4 shrink in the view screen and contemplated the future. Humanity had revealed a truth the galaxy had forgotten. The best weapons weren't always forged in factories. Sometimes evolution created them over eons, perfecting them through countless generations of struggle and survival. The galaxy would never underestimate Earth again. 3 months passed since the demonstration on Verdun 4. The galaxy was still processing what it had witnessed. Military academies across hundreds of worlds had added new courses on biological warfare. Defense contractors scrambled to redesign systems that couldn't be circumvented by small, determined creatures. The footage of honey badgers dismantling a Draxian fortress played on endless loop in strategic planning sessions. Earth status in the Galactic Council changed overnight. Species that had dismissed humanity as primitive now sought alliances. Trade agreements flooded in. Diplomatic channels that had been cold suddenly warmed. Everyone wanted to know what other surprises Earth might be hiding. David sat in the council chambers listening to another species request Earth protection services. The Bolivian Empire had a piracy problem in their outer systems. Their military couldn't stop the raids. They'd heard about honey badgers and wanted to hire them. "We don't rent out living beings," David said patiently. This was the 15th similar request this month. "The animals who helped us at Verdun 4 are back on Earth, living peaceful lives. They're not mercenaries." The Bolivian ambassador looked disappointed. "But surely Earth has other creatures that could help? We've seen your planetary databases. You have thousands of predator species. We're not turning Earth into a weapons supplier," David said firmly. "However, we are establishing an advisory program. Human specialists can teach you defensive strategies based on natural principles. We can help you redesign your security systems to account for non-technological threats." This was the compromise Earth had reached after weeks of internal debate. Share knowledge, not creatures. Teach principles, not tactics. Help other species understand that nature offered solutions technology couldn't match. The Evolutionary Combat Consulting Program was headquartered in Geneva. Dr. Hayes ran it with a staff of biologists, ecologists, and military strategists. They studied Earth's ecosystems and translated natural survival strategies into practical applications for alien species. Patricia stood in a lecture hall filled with alien military officers and explained cooperative defense using examples from Earth. "On my world, certain birds called plovers feed near crocodile habitat. They eat parasites from the crocodile's mouths. The crocodile could easily eat the bird, but doesn't because the bird provides a valuable service. Both species benefit from cooperation." A Torti officer raised a tentacle. "How does this apply to military defense?" "You've been trying to defend your shipping lanes with expensive patrol fleets," Patricia said. "We propose partnering with the Kelvin navigation specialists. They have superior sensors but weak weapons. You have strong weapons but limited sensor range. Together, you cover each other's weaknesses, like the plover and crocodile." The concept was revolutionary for species that had spent millennia competing rather than cooperating. Earth's approach to warfare was fundamentally different because Earth itself was different. Billions of years of evolution had created not just fierce predators, but also complex ecosystems where cooperation and competition balanced each other. Back at the Kalahari facility, Bruno enjoyed retirement. He had a massive enclosure with climate control, enrichment activities, and all the food he could want. Tourists visited to see the famous honey badger who defeated a galactic empire. Bruno mostly ignored them and focused on important tasks like digging elaborate tunnel systems and destroying specially designed puzzle boxes. Roy visited every day. The sergeant had become something of a celebrity himself, giving interviews about animal handling and the bond between humans and Earth's wildlife. But his favorite part of each day was spending quiet time with Bruno and the other honey badgers. "You changed the galaxy, buddy," Roy said, watching Bruno destroy a reinforced container to reach the treats inside. "Now everyone knows Earth isn't just another planet. We're the world that evolution perfected." General Brooks oversaw the expansion of Earth's biological research programs. Not weapons development, but understanding. Teams studied everything from the cooperative hunting of wolves to the architectural genius of termites. Each discovery offered potential applications for problems the galaxy faced. The mantis shrimp program showed promise. These small crustaceans could strike with incredible speed and force. Engineers studied their raptorial appendages to design better impact-resistant materials. The bombardier beetle's chemical defense system inspired new approaches to energy storage. Electric eels offered insights into biological power generation, but Earth was careful. Every program emphasized respect for the creatures involved. Animals were partners, not tools. This philosophy sometimes frustrated alien species who wanted quick solutions, but it was non-negotiable. Humanity had learned harsh lessons about exploiting nature. They wouldn't repeat those mistakes on a galactic scale. High Chancellor Tormund visited Earth for the first time since Verdun IV. He toured the Kalahari facility and met the honey badgers who had changed his perspective on warfare. Duchess approached him without fear and allowed the ancient being to examine her scars. "These marks tell stories of survival," Tormund said quietly. "Every injury survived, every battle won. This creature embodies something my species forgot long ago." "What's that?" Patricia asked. "The understanding that strength comes from endurance, not just power. My people built weapons that could destroy stars, but we never developed the determination of this small animal. When our technology failed, we had nothing left. Earth creatures survive because they cannot afford to fail." The Draxian Empire requested a formal alliance. Vril himself came to Earth to negotiate terms. The proud commander had learned humility at Verdun IV. He sat across from David in a simple conference room and spoke honestly. "We built an empire on firepower," Vril said. "We conquered through superior technology. Then 50 animals showed us our entire military doctrine was flawed. We need to learn what Earth knows." "We'll teach you," David replied. "But understand this isn't about copying our methods. It's about changing how you think. Nature doesn't just offer weapons. It offers wisdom." News networks across the galaxy broadcast footage of Bruno receiving a formal commendation from the Galactic Council. The honey badger sat on a ceremonial platform, completely unconcerned by the honor, more interested in the treats they'd hidden in the metal box. The juxtaposition of galactic importance and animal indifference became the most watched video in Council history. 6 months after Verdun IV, a distress signal came from the galactic rim. A species called the Meridian faced invasion from automated war machines left behind by a dead civilization. The machines had no strategy beyond destroy everything. Traditional military forces couldn't stop them. The Council debated sending a fleet. Then someone suggested asking Earth for help. David took the request to General Brooks and Dr. Hayes. "The Meridians need fighters who don't think like machines," David explained. "Who can't be predicted or countered by AI. Fighters who never quit." Patricia looked at the tactical data. "This would be dangerous. Worse than Verdun IV. Those machines are designed to kill, not demonstrate." "I know." David met her eyes. "I won't ask unless you think the animals can handle it. And only if you're willing." Roy entered the discussion room with Bruno following him. The big honey badger had gained weight in retirement and looked content. But when Roy pulled up images of the war machines threatening the Meridians, Bruno's ears perked up. He made a low growling sound that Roy had learned to recognize. "He's interested," Roy said with a slight smile. "Bruno doesn't like bullies. Never has." Patricia knelt down and looked at her most famous animal partner. Bruno met her eyes with that fearless gaze that had made him perfect for Verdun IV. Earth had given the galaxy many gifts, but none more powerful than creatures who simply refused to lose. "All right," Patricia said finally. "But we do this our way. The animals' safety comes first. They're heroes, not tools." As humanity prepared for its next demonstration of Earth's evolutionary legacy, word spread across the galaxy. The small blue planet on the Council's edge had changed everything. Technology would always matter, but the galaxy had remembered an older truth. Nature had been fighting, adapting, and surviving for billions of years before the first starship launched. Earth hadn't just joined the galactic community. Earth had brought 3 billion years of evolution's greatest lessons with them. And sometimes those lessons came in packages weighing less than 20 kilograms, with an attitude far larger than any battleship. Bruno settled into his new transport container, ready for another adventure. The galaxy needed help, and Earth's most fearless warriors were ready to provide it. Just like they had done for millions of years.